No. Yay. Okay. So it is my pleasure to introduce Tess Sanford Ramirez and Kim Bergman. And keeping with our, International Day of the Woman, there's a quote from Malala Yousafzai. She was the young woman who defied the Taliban to continue her education. I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. And I think Tess and Kim um, exemplify that quote because they're out there fighting for those that don't have a voice. Kim is a survivor of child sexual abuse, and that inspired her to become a social worker and an advocate for children. She has her bachelor's of social work from the University of Kansas and got her master's of social work from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Her advocacy work began in child welfare, where she worked as a case manager for youth in foster care and as a child abuse investigator for the Department of Children and Families. She began publicly sharing her story after joining the national lawsuit against USA Gymnastics that helped create safe sport and other safety requirements for children in sports. Joining the lawsuit helped Kim to find her voice and become a voice for others. She went on to become a member of some speakers bureaus and has spoken at various events locally and nationally. Tess is a Topeka attorney with a passion for advocacy. She earned both a business degree and MBA at Baker University, and it was a 4.0 GPA. Woohoo! She also graduated in the top 10 of her class at Washburn Law. And since graduating, she has practiced personal injury law, supervised a debt resolution program, and co-directed the Protecting Kansas Children from Sexual Predators volunteer group. And she's a veteran and a mother of 5 wonderful children. So Tess and Kim, take it away.
Oh, Kim, you're muted. Kim.
Kim, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry about that. Well, thank you again for having us. Again, my name is Kim Bergman, and I'm one of the co-directors of Protecting Kansas Children from Sexual Predators. We are a group of survivors who work to educate the public about the prevalence of child sexual abuse in our communities and also advocate for legislation that will better support survivors and help protect future children from being abused. So we are excited to tell you about the legislation that we're working on this year, including Erin's Law. But first, we'd like to share a little bit about our own personal stories and why this work is so important to us. So for me, I fell in love with the sport of gymnastics after the 1996 Olympics, where Team USA and the Magnificent Seven won gold. I also began being sexually abused by my gymnastics coach when I was 12, by David Bird. When people think about child sexual abuse, they often wonder why kids don't just tell, or why don't they say no, or why don't they tell someone right away? But for kids, it's not that easy. Only about 1/3 of kids report their abuse when it's actually happening, and over 90% are abused by someone that they know and trust. The average age that a child first discloses their abuse is actually 52 years old, and many survivors never tell. Of the survivors who do report, less than 3% of those reports end in a criminal conviction. And this is something that you should keep in mind the next time you check your local sex offender registry, to know that that is only 3% of what reports are actually made. Predators often groom and manipulate kids to where they don't even realize that abuse has occurred until it's too late. And for me, that's what happened. I remember at gymnastics practice that my coach would have us all line up against the wall and would physically mold and touch our bodies to put us in the right shapes needed for our skills. And as a coach myself, I know this can be done in a normal way, but not the way that David did it. When David would put his hands on my breasts in private areas, I assumed this was something that all coaches did with their gymnasts. And this was sadly just the beginning and what I now know to be grooming that began. That summer, my team went to Bart Connor's gymnastics camp in Oklahoma, where my memories include the famous gymnast Nadia Comaneci teaching me my back walk on the beam and also being sexually assaulted. One day after a long workout, my team all went to the hotel swimming pool, and we were all having a good time, and I was too, until David started slipping his hands inside the top and bottom of my swimsuit. At the time, I was scared. I didn't know what was happening. I thought it had to be a mistake. No one noticed. I was in shock. Then he took my hand and placed it against his erect penis. And at the time, I had no idea what it was, but I knew that it felt wrong. There are many stories that I could tell you, but I will spare you the rest of the details. That summer, I came home from camp and told my best friend what had happened, but neither of us could understand the magnitude of what David was doing to me or what I should do. So we did nothing. The abuse continued until that fall when David was arrested for sexually assaulting 3 young female coaches at my gym. Rumors about his firing quickly spread, and parents were outraged. But for some reason, they weren't mad at David. They were mad at the owners of the gym for firing him and accused the female coaches of making false allegations just to get more hours at the gym. Keep in mind, these were college girls. They had no interest in getting a full-time job. So for me, I had a front row seat to see how women were treated who made sexual assault allegations. Why would I want to come forward when I knew how the others were being treated? Keeping my secret ate at me. I developed eating disorders and self-harmed. About a year later, I started writing letters to one of the assaulted coaches that were almost more like a journal. The letters were discovered and my abuse was eventually reported to the police. An investigation was conducted and I completed a forensic interview. The police forwarded the case to the district attorney's office, who failed to press charges, despite the fact that they had evidence of multiple victims and my abuse was substantiated by DCF. And this was the end. No one ever followed up with me. All I knew that David wasn't arrested and that he went on coaching throughout the state. I assumed this meant that either no one believed me or that I simply didn't matter. About 10 years after my abuse ended, my worst nightmare happened. David opened his own gym in Topeka where he had unlimited access to children. Soon after that, he was arrested for aggravated indecent liberties with a child. I was told that none of the records from my case could be used due to the statute of limitations. David had literally gotten a get-out-of-jail-free card for abusing me and the others. Predators rarely stop abusing after one victim. We now know that there are at least 20 victims over 30 years, all by the same coach, and I can only imagine how many of us there really are.
So my name is Tess Sanford Ramirez, and those aggravated indecent liberties that Kim was just mentioning, well, that was me. I was abused by the same man that Kim was 10 years after her in a different town. But let's rewind a little bit. In 2007, I tried out for the middle school cheerleading team, and I didn't make it. But as luck would have it, there was a new cheerleading gym opening just down the road. My dad told me I could spend the year learning there so that I could hopefully make the squad my freshman year. So I joined a basic class. I fell in love with the sport. So I joined a tumbling class too. Before I knew it, I was at the gym almost every night of the week. And the owner of the gym and the main coach, Dave, asked me to fill out a job application to become a junior coach. I was so excited. What I didn't know was that he never wanted me to be a junior coach. What he really wanted was my cell phone number, a way to talk to me without other eyes or ears. It started out as gym-related messages. Are you coming tonight? Don't forget open gym tomorrow. But then it morphed into something else. Good morning texts, calls at night where we talked about my parents' divorce and his childhood. He started giving me nicknames. Then he asked for pictures of me. He said he wanted some to put in his office. I made up excuses for a while, but eventually I caved. Then he started asking for different kinds of pictures, the risque kind. I never gave him any, but I remember him pushing and getting more and more scared that he was going to get angry for me refusing. During tumbling classes, he would often brush my butt or accidentally catch me in an inappropriate way. One night at open gym, he asked me to text my dad and tell him I need to stay late. Just me. The other girls had left early. I laughed it off and declined. He asked me to go into the office with him to look at some leotards for the gymnastics team he was building. But when we went in there, he pressed himself against my back and began reaching under my clothes. I froze. I don't know how long that part lasted, but eventually I broke away and pretended I needed a drink of water. The water fountain was across the gym. He followed and continued touching me. I knew there was no point in running. I was a 14-year-old girl, and he was a almost 50-year-old man who worked out every day. I was powerless. At some point, headlights flashed across the gym. My dad was there to pick me up. Dave walked behind the counter to hide his erection and greeted my dad like it was any other day. I got my things and walked out to the car, and I didn't say a word to my dad on the way home. When I got home, I called my best friend, and I told her what happened. I was in shock, confused, hurt. She said, "Tell your dad or I will." When I told my dad a very minimized version of the story, he was silent. He turned around and left my room without a word. The next thing I knew, there was a slew of police officers in my bedroom. And that night ended with me at a child advocacy center where I told a forensic interview some of what had happened to me. I say some because to this day there are some parts that I don't remember, parts that my brain just protects me from. But every now and then I recover one of those memories, and most of the time I wish I hadn't. A few months later at a sentencing, I found out that it wasn't just me and Kim that he had abused. There were 5 of us in the courtroom that day. In fact, he had planned to demand a trial, but when he walked into the courtroom and saw multiple of his victims, he told his lawyer he had changed his mind and he took a plea instead. He was sentenced as a first-time offender to 2 years in prison because all the other victims in the case, their cases were too old and the statute of limitations prevented them from being prosecuted. Time went on. I grew up, joined the military, I started my own family, went to law school, did my best to forget what happened to me. But it showed up in how I struggled in relationships, how I refused to let my kids out of my sight, and how I had migraines so bad I ended up in ER regularly. The weekend I graduated law school in 2021 was the same weekend that a journalist found me. She left a voicemail on my dad's answering machine asking if I'd be willing to talk to her about my abuse. When I say my soul shattered, it was like I was 14 all over again. I hadn't talked about it in decades. But I agreed to talk to her, and I'm grateful that I did. She ended up connecting me with Kim, who we hadn't talked since right after when I was first abused. That first night, Kim and I sat on a video call, and we compared our stories. We realized Dave clearly had a method very well practiced in grooming and abusing children. And that was the very first time I ever felt like I wasn't alone in my trauma. Almost a year later, Kim invited me to go to the state capitol with her and listen to her speak at a press conference. She had connected with a legislator and a survivor team who wanted to remove the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse. I stayed in the back of the room and just shook listening to her. I was scared and I wasn't even talking. But I was really excited to meet Kim in person finally. About a year later, I joined her in speaking about the same topic. Only an amazing thing happened. We actually did remove the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse, criminal at least, and then extended the civil.
So, as Tess said, in 2023, we were able to remove the criminal statute of limitations. So, from 2023 on, anyone that abuses a child can be held accountable for that abuse indefinitely. We are no longer giving get out of jail free cards for child sexual abuse in Kansas. So, this was a huge accomplishment. And last year, we decided that we needed to change our focus and really start looking at prevention. So, having the ability to prosecute offenders is important. But if children don't feel comfortable reporting or know who to talk to, then we have no one to prosecute, and predators will continue to abuse children. So we found that we need to empower children to be like Tess's friend and say that abuse is not a secret that we keep. In fact, I tell my own children that we don't keep secrets at all. Instead, we can keep surprises, which is something that is a good and happy thing that others will soon get to know as well. And this is why we decided to support Erin's Law and ask for your support as well. So Erin's Law would require that public schools to provide students K through 12 with age-appropriate body safety education for child sexual abuse prevention 1 day a year. Body safety training helps children to recognize inappropriate behaviors such as good and bad touches, understand that abuse is never their fault, and how to tell a trusted adult if someone has hurt them or made them feel uncomfortable. Research shows that body safety education works. It makes it harder for predators to groom, can help kids to report and end their abuse sooner, and can also prevent future children from being abused by that predator. One of my biggest regrets in life is that Tess is here with you all today. I can't help but think that if I had been able to stop him sooner, she wouldn't be here in this capacity. Erin's law would also require that teachers receive some type of annual training about child sexual abuse, including how to spot warning signs, how to handle disclosures, and ensure that reports are being made. Kansas is currently one of 12 states that have not passed this law, including all of our surrounding states other than Nebraska. Studies show that children are significantly more likely to report when they've been abused after receiving this training, and that teachers are 82% more likely to report abuse. Now, Kansas has amazing teachers, and we understand they're already flooded with information and trainings, but child sexual abuse isn't something that we can push aside. So we've also worked a lot to dispel the myths about body safety. Body safety education is not sex ed. For young kids, we're talking about teaching them that no one should touch their private areas, their swimsuit covers. There are also many districts in Kansas that already have education and training like this in place, and that's amazing. And we don't want to change that. This is often done through child advocacy centers, sexual assault organizations, or other community resources. But not all schools in Kansas have programs like this. In fact, there are currently 23 counties in Kansas that don't have access to a child advocacy center. So Erin's law would ensure that all children in Kansas get this important information in some manner. Right now, studies show that as many as 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused. They're statistically more likely to be abused than they are to be in a fire, tornado, school shooting, yet we educate kids in schools to protect themselves from all of those scenarios, but not child sexual abuse. It's important that kids be taught in school because not all families teach their children at home. And sadly, the home is where many children experience abuse, often by their own parents or family members. Now, we're not saying that this education should replace conversations with parents. This should be in addition to, and oftentimes it's a way for a reminder for parents to have these talks, or helps to give them a conversation starter to have with their kids. Tess and I, we looked at how Erin's law works in other states, met with legislators, collaborated with other community agencies, and we created our own version of the bill that we introduced in the House Education Committee. And we did this ourselves partly so that the bill would not be tied to any certain political party. We like to say we're Team Kid. Everyone can be on Team Kid. There are several important components to the bill other than just the student and teacher education. We wanted to make sure that each district is able to maintain local control. So each district will get to choose the curriculum and how the education is presented to students. This would include whether the district utilizes a community agency like a Child Advocacy Center or CAC, or if they want to teach the information themselves through an approved curriculum. The Erin's Law Foundation recently released their own free curriculum that any school can use. Parents will also have the right to opt their children out if they choose, and this could actually happen for a variety of reasons. Some parents want to be the ones to talk to their kids about this themselves, but it's also been brought up that there might be a child who has previously experienced abuse but is now safe, and that this could be triggering for them. So it might be better for them to sit this one out. But studies do show that very few families actually opt their children out. And we also know that the opt-out is necessary for this bill to pass. So we started having weekly meetings with legislators at the beginning of the session, and we've received overwhelming support for the bill. We've only had 2 senators actually tell us that they weren't supportive. One saying she didn't agree with stand mandates and wouldn't support the cell phone bill either. And another one saying she didn't believe that private body parts should be discussed in school and didn't think that the parents in her district would want this, despite the fact that her district is actually already partnering with a child advocacy center who teaches body safety in the classrooms. So, a hearing was held for the bill in the House Education Committee. And unfortunately, the director of Children's Advocacy Centers of Kansas and one of the local CACs told us right before the hearing that they were changing their previously submitted testimony from proponent to neutral. They basically testified that they only want the CACs or other professionals to be the ones talking to kids about body safety, and that kids could suffer otherwise. They stated that they were concerned that kids would disclose to the presenter and that the presenter would not be able to handle the disclosure appropriately. They also testified that Sunflower House is a free accredited program, and it's important that programs be accredited. We were disappointed about this testimony and that they changed their stance so last minute so that we weren't given the time to be able to counter with testimony to show why this is still important and it can be done in a safe and appropriate way. So unfortunately, the chair of the committee decided not to work the bill this year and said they wanted to look into more ways to get more funding for the CACs to help them open more centers and be able to do this work themselves. We were pretty devastated and in shock when this happened, but we didn't give up. So the information provided from the CACs of Kansas was misleading. The research we have found shows that when kids disclose abuse, that 54% actually tell a friend or a peer, just like Tess and I did. 24% tell a family member, and only about 14% tell a professional. We've also learned that very few body safety education curriculums are actually fully accredited, not because something is wrong with the content, but because of the time and money that it takes to go through the accreditation process. So using the term free accredited curriculum was misleading because we've also been told that they're also charging some districts. We aren't trying to say anything negative about the CAC or the program that they use, but we are trying to say that there are amazing programs out there, including ones that are used by other CACs in our state that are research-based or evidence-based and are more than adequate to be used to educate children. And that it's not worth waiting for the CACs to get about $5 million to be able to do the work themselves. So again, not saying anything negative about the CACs, we're just saying we can't wait for it. I look at waiting to pass Erin's law as the same as seeing a child drowning in the pool and telling them that, I'm sorry, we can't help you, that we need to wait for the lifeguard to rescue them. And then hold up, we need to wait for the ambulance to arrive. And then we also need to make sure that the hospital has room. A drowning child cannot wait. We know that there are Kansas kids who are being raped and abused right now. It is our duty to give these kids the tools to try to end their abuse sooner and help prevent future children from being abused. We've spoken to teachers, counselors, social workers from Kansas schools who have said that they are capable of teaching kids about body safety and want to make sure that this information gets to kids as soon as possible. We've also talked to a CAC in Kansas that says their local school district will not allow them into the schools to educate kids. Passing Erin's law would require the district to allow body safety education. So after the hearing in the House, we created a list of addendums to help address any concerns. Those addendums include requiring all districts to use a curriculum that is at least evidence-based or research-based, and that anyone who does the presents to the kids have some type of training on how to do these presentations and handle disclosures. And we also agreed to extend the deadline to the following school year, to the 27-28 school year. So this will give more time for schools to get this in place. Fortunately, when we were meeting with legislators, Senator Adam Thomas was so passionate about the bill that he had also submitted a mirror version to the Senate Education Committee. And Senate Bill 385 was blessed by Senate President Ty Masterson. And so we can still get a hearing in the Senate Education Committee. But we need Senator Erickson to grant us a hearing, which could be difficult because the House didn't work the bill. And oftentimes they don't like to hear it, work it on one side if the other side didn't. Even though in this case, we think a lot of it had to do with misinformation. We've talked to Representative Estes, and she's very supportive of the amendments that we've made and still wanting to try to make this happen. So time is running out, but we will keep going until the end. And if the bill doesn't pass this session, we will keep coming back until we can get it passed. Looking back, I wonder what I would have done if I had been taught about body safety as a child. How would I have felt if someone had told me that it was never acceptable for an adult to touch my private areas or make me touch theirs? How would I have felt if someone had told me that it was okay to tell and that there were safe adults who would believe me? And honestly, I think I would have felt relieved to know that I wasn't alone. Maybe if my best friend had had this training, she could have helped me to feel safe reporting, and maybe I could have spared Tess and the others from being abused as well.
Erin's law can save so many kids. So that's our primary goal right now. We do have a second bill that we are working on and have for a couple of years now. We've got to do something for the ones that can't be saved. So we want to make sure that survivors have access to as many tools as possible to try and find healing. When we were working on the statute of limitations bill, we kept getting asked if there would be any evidence if you're prosecuting a case that's 30 years old. Now, with technology around, there's texts, messages, pictures, videos that are taken and sent that can be used to show that a predator was grooming and abusing a victim. We also know that in some cases, like Kim's, DCF sometimes investigates and substantiates the abuse without the DA ever filing a single charge. But did you know that Kansas doesn't allow survivors of abuse access to their own DCF records? That's the second bill we're working on. We think that survivors of all types of abuse should have access to their own DCF records after they turn 18. Those files hold the information that survivors need to process and heal, and perhaps the evidence that could help hold their abuser accountable. It could be used as evidence in a civil case that would put the predator's name out there and make the public aware that they're a danger to children. It could help keep more kids safe. Prevention and accountability really do go hand in hand. As survivors, we know what it means to lose everything: our childhood, our innocence, ourselves. So when we start to heal, we give away everything we've lost and some. But somewhere along the way, we figure out that we're not alone. Just like Kim said, eventually we figure it out. There's a lot of people just like you all that are out there trying to make the world better, protect kids, and all the other humans around. So during the time that we first started meeting with legislators about child sexual abuse and just really starting the education, because most of them didn't really know anything about it, one of them told us they didn't think this was that big of an issue in Kansas and that not very many Kansans would care about it. We knew that was wrong, but we had to show them. So we started a Facebook page. And that page hit 33,000 followers this week, which is mind-boggling to us. We know that Kansans care about protecting kids from predators, and now we have proof. And we have this amazing online community where we get to share safety tips, non-compliant offenders, and so many more Kansans are aware of the reality of child sexual abuse. And we really couldn't be more grateful. But it's also been amazing in times like these where we're working in legislation and we need people to share their stories. When we had that hearing in the House, usually Kim and I are the only ones out there sharing our personal stories, but we had a whole room of survivors up there testifying and sharing their stories. And I mean, that kind of power really makes all the difference. So we're grateful for that opportunity. Sorry, Kim, I got off track. Oh, you're muted again.
Sorry about that. Okay. If you're interested in helping, we ask that you contact your state legislators and ask that they support Erin's Law and other legislation that would support survivors of abuse. Please also reach out to Senator Erickson and respectfully ask her for a hearing for Senate Bill 385 for Erin's Law. You can also help by following us on social media, sharing our posts so that we can get more Kansans involved in our efforts. Our social media accounts share information about our upcoming legislation, events with parent safety tips, and survivor support, and also information about predators in our state. So thank you so much for having us, and we are both willing and open to answer any questions that you may have.
Let's see, I'm trying to see if anybody put. Oh, Betsy said she reposts your content on her page.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Let's see. Okay. We're a small group here, but I'll start off questions and then let's see, how should we do this? How about does everybody know how to raise their hand on the React thing? Everybody know that? Oh, Pam's going to have a question here. Right, Pam?
Not
Oh, there's two Pams. I'm sorry. Okay, Pam Marino. There's three Pams.
I don't have a question, but what's the title of what's your Facebook page? But
It's protecting Kansas children from sexual predators. I did throw the link in the chat.
okay, all right, great. I'll get it from there then. Thanks.
What's the thinking behind not allowing access to the DCF records?
We're really hoping it was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
So the child in need of care statute is long.
Right.
And in it says, these are confidential records. No one except people on this list get access to them. The GALs, the court, the DA, caseworkers, things like that. I think we forgot that the kids grow up eventually. So really, our bill literally just adds a section that says, and the subject of the file after they turn 18.
Gotcha.
We had that one. It's been, Kim, have we submitted that one 3 times?
Twice.
Okay, twice. Um, Unfortunately, you know how politics go. We didn't get it submitted by the right person last time. So we are going to submit it ourselves next year and have been told that we will get a hearing on it at that point.
Good. So when did you start the time frame here? When did you start trying to get this passed? Erin's law.
So this is the first session that we've officially tried to get it passed, but
Okay.
I believe it was back in 2014 that Erin Moran, who is the kind of inspiration of the bill, that she actually testified at a hearing here in Kansas for it. We just think this is the first time that a group like us from Kansas, in Kansas, at the Capitol meeting of legislators is really pushing for the bill. And we're hoping that will make the difference to get this forward.
All right. And you must have changed some minds of the legislators as far as thinking that this isn't a problem in Kansas. Oh my word. I can't. I mean, I was a CASA volunteer for a few years, and I don't know how they could not see this or not know this as a legislator, because Kansas has had a problem for years. I mean, all states do. I guess you just want to hide your head in the sand type of thing. I mean, what do you think, Kim and Tess?
I mean, I think this particular legislator, I think if people don't know someone, this isn't something that's talked about a lot.
Right.
So, you know, when he said he didn't know anyone this has happened to, my response was, well, have you ever asked? Because odds are you know someone. You have multiple daughters, odds aren't in your favor. Every day that we come up to the Capitol or we do big community presentations, we have someone come up and say, I've never told you this, but I've never told anyone this, but I'm a survivor, or my mother, my sister, my daughter, my granddaughter, my son. We get disclosures all the time. And I think something kind of unique about what the work that we do, and that is slightly different from some of the experiences that the child advocacy centers have, is we often hear from the survivors that either never told, that reported and nobody moved it forward, that never got to the point of having that forensic interview, that never got to the point of having that criminal prosecution. And so while getting criminal prosecutions is important, we most importantly want to either prevent the abuse from happening or at least stop it sooner. Sorry.
It's okay. Oh, there he is, or she.
I have a comment. I'm Pam Marino from the Winfield, Cali County chapter. And I have two ladies that I know. One's a senator, Cindy Holscher. She's running for governor. And in the House, Alexis Simmons. Have you met Alexis? I think those ladies would be very, very strong to advocate with you. Have you actually had a conversation with them about doing that?
So Cindy Holscher was actually the one that really helped us with our statute of limitations bill, and
Good.
very much appreciated her help. She's also been kind of giving us advice and very understanding of the fact that we can't necessarily broadcast working with her a lot,
Right.
because we have a Republican majority. And if we associate with her too much, I think there are people that will not want to work with us or want to work the bill. So
Sure.
we've been trying really hard to be we are not on one side or the other. Again, team kid, not red, not blue. So getting a combination of legislators supportive on both sides, because I think this also works in their favor to say that they're supportive of a bill that's I can never remember the words, bipartisan. Is that the right word? Okay.
Well, of course. And how can you resist feeling good about trying to protect children?
Right.
I mean, how could anyone say that's a bad idea?
Yeah. And I honestly think that I think that the reason this may or probably won't happen this year isn't because people don't support it or agree with it. I think there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding on how it needs to happen. I think it is possible to do this without having a child advocacy center for every county in Kansas.
Right.
And there's actually I think it was an Illinois task force that did research on who was the best to actually do these presentations. And they actually decided that someone in the school was a better option because kids are more comfortable and they're more likely to disclose to someone they are comfortable with than a stranger from outside the school. So there's
I would agree with that too.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, and there's actually some CACs do it here in Kansas, but there's also other organizations here that are willing to go in and train the teachers on how to give these presentations so that either the teacher themselves or the school counselor or school social worker or someone like that that is familiar with the students can give the presentations, but also have that backup support whenever they need it.
Great.
And there's another question here. When do you anticipate that Erin's Law will come to committee?
That's a great question that unfortunately we don't have an answer to. The last time we talked to Senator Erickson, she kind of basically said she needed to get permission from Representative Estes in order to hear the bill, because I think from my understanding, it's not super common that if one chamber holds a hearing and chooses not to work the bill, that the other side would do it. So I think they're kind of wanting to make sure, why was the bill not worked? Is there a reason for it? So I don't know. We could have a hearing in 24 hours. We could not get a hearing at all.
And there are in Kansas other strange ways to get things across the board. We've also heard there's a shell bill that is open on the Senate side. There's a possibility there could be a gut and go situation. That's what happened in our statute of limitations bill. Obviously, gut and go is not the greatest thing in the world democratically, but if we can use it in our favor for once, might as well. We've also been told that there's a chance Erin's Law could be offered as an amendment to one of the other sexual abuse legislative that are hitting the floor here soon. And we just had that meeting on Thursday where they recommended that. So we'll follow back up with them on Monday and see if that's an option too. So even if we don't get a hearing, we had one say, until we're done, until veto session is over, there's still a chance. So we're gonna hang in as long as we can, and if not, then we'll be back next year.
Well,
Right. It's not over till it's over. It's a go until it's not a go. Right. Good. Well, keep fighting, ladies. It's very inspirational. You're very brave.
Yeah, really. And I'm wondering if that bill that it could be added to is the one requiring clergy to report. No, really? I figured that would be a good one to add it to.
The one they had recommended was Caleb's Law. Is that right?
I think there's a couple.
Benny's.
There's Caleb's Law, Trey's Law, Benny's Law, or Benny's Bill. Yeah, and there also is a clergy one as well. We've kind of tried to keep separate from the clergy bill, just because there are people that feel very passionately about that bill one way or the other. And when we were working on statute of limitations, there was also the clergy bill then as well. And people would often look at us, if they felt one way about the clergy bill, they would look at us, are you the ones trying to prosecute the churches? Are you the ones trying to blah, blah, blah? And we're like, no. So we've tried to have a pretty big distinction from clergy, because that's kind of targeted to one sector, where we'd like to say that child sexual abuse is anywhere that kids are, whether it's in churches, schools, scouts, sports, homes, anywhere. And as of right now, I don't know that the clergy bill has had a hearing in the Senate, whereas I believe there's some other bills that have gone through the Senate from the House. So I think all of those bills started on the House side, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
There is Caleb's bill, which is also known as the sextortion bill, which is also a growing problem throughout the whole country, where teens, specifically, or more often boys, are targeted, whether it's by peers, adults in the country, adults out of the country, that are getting kids to share naked pictures of themselves and then extorting them to try to get money out of them. And fortunately, a lot of kids have committed suicide over this. That bill does ask that the KBI work with the Department of Ed to have some type of education about sextortion. There's also Trey's law, which would prohibit the use of non-disclosure agreements in child sexual abuse cases. So that's being done on the state level. We're also told it's being done federally, but that the federal one would not be retroactive like the state one would be. So if someone has already signed an NDA in Kansas without the state law, they would, because they've already signed it, they could never talk about that abuse again. Is that correct, Tess?
Yes.
She's my legal mind. So
Ask the lawyer.
I'm just a social worker.
There was a program, this was many years ago when our daughter was young, and I was a CASA volunteer, and it was called Happy Bear program. Are you guys familiar with that?
So Happy Bear is what Sunflower House in Johnson County uses, and they've offered to give that program to child advocacy centers in Kansas, but they're not willing to share that with anyone but a child advocacy center.
Oh,
There's also, it appears that that program is accredited for grades 2 through 5, but not K through 12. But yeah.
I think it's actually younger than that. It's preschool through second.
Well, it's only accredited for certain grades. They still have
Oh,
for certain grades.
okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
So, and we're trying to make the point that a program doesn't necessarily have to be accredited to be a good program,
Right.
but some were trying to say it did. And so
What do other states, how is their legislation? Do they have that requirement that it has to be accredited?
So there are only about 10 accredited elementary school body safety education programs, including like the biggest ones that are most commonly used are not accredited.
Okay.
And part of that, like Kim said, comes down to money. But we also discussed anytime there's changes that need to be made to the program, if it's accredited, they can't just make the change and update it. So we're talking about the sex portion, the AI, the online things that need to be updated for the curriculum to be the most helpful for kids it can be. And if it's accredited, they can't include those things unless they go back through that process. So it's kind of a give and take on that one.
Okay. And that one senator, or maybe she was a representative, that was against all mandates on schools. It made me think, have you had to address, okay, this is another mandate we have to do. How are we going to fund this? And
Yes.
what's I figured,
Oh yeah.
what's the answer for that?
It's kind of a two-part piece. So because the bill has both the teacher education part and the student education part. So we have actually, it's a part of the funding request. So as the CAC said, they needed $5 million to be able to do this, which I think
Right.
is, because like I teach this to my kids, right? We have a book, we read it. It's My Body, What I Says Go. It's a 20-minute reading conversation. They know a whole lot more now. It's a conversation. How does that cost $5 million? I'll never understand. But obviously there could be
New
some
math. That's called new math.
yeah. You know, there has been some talk about it being an expense to train teachers, but you know, keep in mind we already do have child abuse as mandatory training. So like for teachers, we know they get a lot of training. We're not trying to pile tons and tons more on them. We just want to make sure they at least have access to it and at least see it once a year, even if that's just adding a couple of slides to the end of their already child abuse stuff. As mandatory reporters, making sure they know what the red flags are specifically for child sexual abuse, how to handle disclosures, and how to accurately make those reports. Because we've seen a lot of districts where reporting is either not happening or is not happening correctly. And we actually saw a case in Leavenworth where people were charged with not reporting, which you
Oh,
can be charged. So part of it, in my mind at least, is giving teachers more to benefit them, to more support them, because we don't want them to be charged with not reporting. But if they also can't see the signs, that kind of leaves them in a bad spot.
And
Yeah, because they
financially,
don't know what to look for. Yeah.
and even from a financial aspect, we've seen so many teacher abuse cases recently that we know lawsuits are going to follow, that it's cheaper to protect kids than it is to have to fix adults later.
Oh yeah,
that's a good
definitely.
argument.
But,
Yes.
That's a huge argument, I think. This one of
and
the
there's
strongest ones really I think you've got is not being able for them to be honest and clear with what had happened so that they can kind of move on with their life. It's going to be very difficult to ever be totally connected, the way they need to be as an adult. It will create a lot more problems for them interfacing with other people. To
So,
me, let's try to work as much good as we can as early as possible. Yes.
so each district would get to kind of choose what the cost is for this. They can choose to use the free Erin's Law curriculum, and they're not having to pay for a curriculum. They're not having to pay for presenters to come out to their district. Some counties have child advocacy centers that are free, that will come and do these presentations at no cost. Some counties have child advocacy centers that do charge for them to come into the schools. So it's up to that district and what resources they have and how they want to do it.
We've also seen a lot of CACs have partnered with local community grants that are providing for these. So, like, I talked to one counselor, and she does the presentations herself to the students, and she loves doing that. And she had been working with the CAC, but they only offered certain grades of curriculum, and she wanted it to be every year. So they went online and found an online curriculum that was, I think it was K through 5. And then they asked their community to support it, and they got a grant for it. And now their whole community is getting it for free. But like Kim said, that Erin's Law Foundation curriculum just came out, and I think it's out through K through 8 right now.
I think it's K through 8, but I think it might have come out with 12 by now. If not, the 12 is coming very soon. I think they said they were working on finalizing like the graphics or something, making it pretty.
It's getting close. So yes, there's all that. But we've also, since we've been meeting with all kinds of organizations, have found 4 separate statewide organizations that are willing to either go in and teach the teachers or go in and actually give the presentations for free across the state of Kansas. So there are absolutely no cost options for the schools.
Wow, that's great.
so there's really no excuses.
Right.
No.
Absolutely.
You've done a
Yeah.
really good job of having valid answers to all the objections, I think. And no, somebody wrote, I suspect keeping those files from survivors is about protecting the predators. Sorry to be cynical, but current events make me suspicious.
Yeah, right. Just a thought. Yeah, it might be that. Yes.
Yeah.
And part of that, I think, my cynical side comes out. Sometimes I think part of it is about protecting the institutions, because if we get a file that says we had, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Zoe Felix case, but she was a little girl in Topeka that had dozens of reports on her, and then ended up being raped and killed. She was 5 years old,
Mhm.
because she never got rescued. And so I think sometime there's probably someone somewhere that is worried about the liability risk that comes out if all of
Mhm.
those are released. Um, and I on so like in my lawyer life, I represent kids a lot in those kinds of situations, and it is expensive for the state, but like that's I spend more time working on safety plans than I do on the money side, because I think that's equally as important for the child. But not every team is like that, and I think that's something that the legislature really just needs to be informed on, and the community needs informed on, is that there is money and there's criminals and all of that, but we really have to focus on the child and their healing and how to help them be okay. I think that is really, really what you need to remember.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Is there anything, Tess and Kim, that you would like to end on?
Oh, you're muted, Kim.
I don't think so. Just we appreciate you guys all listening, and if you can help spread the word, we'd appreciate it.
We can certainly do that. And
Fine.
thank you so much for what you're doing for kids. And I can't say enough how much I admire what you're doing. Oh, I know what I was going to ask is, do you have, okay, so you have the volunteer organization protecting Kansas kids from sexual predators. Is that an actual group? I mean, do you have members or how does that work?
So it's mainly Tess and I that run it. We have a kind of a network of different survivors or supporters that we will email out, and that will sometimes join us on events. But this work is hard. It's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, Tess and I literally were just crying at the Capitol the other day. Like, and we've had some people that have been a big part of this, and then they say, I got to check out. This is too much. We've had some people that, and also a lot of people have full time jobs and can't commit to this all the time. So it's mainly the two of us that run it, but we do get some help from others. But it's also good that so we decided not to make this a 50 whatever number and all the things, because then we're able to do what we want. We're able to lobby, advocate. So we've kind of just chosen to fund this on our own, and we occasionally get some donations, but we like that we can do what we think is best.
Oh,
Right.
so if people want to send a donation, how would they do that?
We have a Give Butter account. So
A give what now?
it's
A give
called Give Butter.
butter or better?
Yes, I know it sounds weird.
Like butter to
You mean
eat?
like what I like to put on my toast?
Yes.
Okay,
I
I've
just put
never
the link
heard
in.
of that.
Yes. So we have a Give Butter account. It's kind of like GoFundMe, but it's for nonprofits and things like that. So they don't take a fee, which
Gotcha.
is
Well,
okay.
that's nice. Yeah, that's
There's no
good.
charges.
Yeah.
And then we use that mainly for like printing signage, stuff
Yeah.
like that for when we go to the Capitol, um, that kind of thing. I think we are going to, this is the first year we've had donations, so it's been a little strange. Usually it's just us funding it. But I think we're going to try and register for some bigger events where they charge you to table.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to start doing that next year.
I think you should do that. Put up tables wherever you possibly can. I don't think most people really know that you're out there advocating for this. And I know once they hear the whole storyline, of what you're about, I feel certain you would get quite a lot of support.
I agree. And we'll
So
help.
do you want to do you want to, if somebody wants to mail you a check, could you put something in the chat that's got how it should be addressed and where to mail to, or is Give Butter, is it online?
That's online. If you want to do a check, oops, sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time.
Well,
If you really want to, if
you
you
can
really
put
want to do a check, I can just give you my address and we could do it that way if you want.
okay, well, could you do that? And then the site for the Give Butter too, so if somebody wants to do it online for you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That way, you've got a little bit of money for signage and stuff like that because, you're not through the session. I know it's moving fast, but you'll be back next year.
And we've talked that, even if, so Erin's Law and the DCF Records Bill, those are our two main goals.
Yes.
After that, we will probably pick up something else that we want to do to pursue to either support survivors or protect kids. Because unfortunately, this isn't going away anytime soon. So we will.
Yes, there's lots of angles on it.
Yes.
For sure.
And
Good.
during the off season, we do, because now we have seasons. Our life has changed dramatically in the last few years. But in the off seasons, we do a lot of, community events. We post a lot of, parent safety tips. how to choose the right kind of summer camp, what to look for,
That's a good one.
Wow.
warning signs, all kinds of things, how to handle disclosures, resources for survivors like podcasts, other healing things, self-care, all the things. But my favorite part about it is that when we're not running around like crazy with legislature, we post non-compliant sex offenders from the KBI registry. And we've gotten like 5 people arrested and like a dozen more into compliance, which is
Cool.
really, really fun and
Wow.
amazing for me.
Yeah. You know, your comment about the summer camps, I would think that that's an excellent place for potential predators to be roaming around.
It
I
really
hate to
is.
say that, but I'm sure you realize that too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It is.
Wow. Hats off.
Yes.
Everybody give them love.
Yeah.
I love doing these little, oh, it didn't do it. Wait.
Oh, it's doing it. Hearts.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Yeah, the hearts are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And oh, here, wait, I'm gonna get address here so that I can do that real quick. Because I never know how to keep things. How do you keep things from the chat? I never know that.
There's a way you can save it.
I know, but how?
If you go up to the top right, there's like 3 little dots, and if you click that, it says save chat.
Yes, that's how you can save chat.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Ah,
and once you get off,
yay.
it's going to
That was
have it
simple.
on your screen and you can copy it to your email or something so you can
Okay.
get all those comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned something else new today. Woohoo.
There's always something to learn.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yep. Learning does not stop as you get older, ladies, just to let you know that.
Never.
And my hero here, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, would be so proud of you,
Yes.
Tess.
Good.
Yeah, so proud of you. Thank you so very, very much. And we are, before I get off, we are going to take April off. Neither Susan nor I can do this in April, but hopefully we'll be back in May with another virtual presentation. So everybody
Yeah.
get out and enjoy the nice weather, and we will see you later.
Thank
Just
you.
just to know, we do have a YouTube channel, Women for Kansas does, and this, since it was recorded and obviously you've agreed that it can be posted there, that's another thing you can send out to folks too,
Yes.
is the link to listen to what we just listened to.
Amazing.
Right.
That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you all so much.
Mhm,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.